Will Hurd appeared to be the future of the Republican Party in Congress. Only 42 years old, his resume includes years working as an undercover CIA agent in the Middle East. He sits on the influential House Intelligence Committee.
In your investigation, did you think that this was a single attempt by the Russians to get involved in our election, or did you find evidence to suggest they'll try to do this again?
No, it wasn't a single attempt. They're doing it as we sit here.
And is known for getting along with colleagues across the aisle. In 2016, when flights were canceled by winter storms, he and then Democratic Congressman Beto O'Rourke drove all the way from El Paso to Washington together, live streaming the entire trip.
Somebody over here doesn't like to stop. He wouldn't have stopped. He would just sit in the car.
Somebody's trying to make sure that we get to votes on time.
Yeah.
But now, after just 2 terms, Hurd has announced he is leaving Congress, and his decision has set off alarms within the party.
Yes.
You've had a handful of members announce retirement, that they're not going to seek re-election. What do you say to a member who's considering retirement? What's your pitch to get them to stay?
You know what? Each retirement is different, and let me be very frank. I'm not concerned about any retirement. The only retirement I was concerned about is Will Hurd.
Hurd insists his departure has nothing to do with the direction of the GOP.
I've always said you don't have to die or be defeated to leave Washington, D.C. My decision was based on, I thought I had the opportunity to work on a number of issues that are important to me, that intersection between national security and technology.
So it isn't anything about the Republican Party. You still are a Republican. You're not thinking about changing parties at all.
No, it's not even. It hasn't even been a thought.
Retirements among establishment House Republicans have surged.
Congressman Kenny Marchant will
Republican
retire.
Pete Olson won't seek re-election.
Congressman Sean Duffy, he will be stepping down from his position.
Georgia Senator Johnny Isakson announced he'll resign at the end of the year.
More Republicans saying they will not run for re-election.
Hurd may be just one lawmaker among the considerable number of GOP retirement announcements this early in a congressional term. But his exit highlights larger concerns within his party. Hurd is the only black Republican in the House, and he doesn't downplay his concern about that fact.
I've always said if the Republican Party doesn't start looking like America, there's not going to be a Republican Party in America. That the Republican Party is not growing and making inroads into those groups of people that are becoming the highest percentage voters in the United States of America, we're going to have a problem. I will say that, yes, some of the rhetoric that happens makes it difficult to take a message to minority communities and to communities where there's a lot of young folks. But that shouldn't stop us from ultimately doing that.
He represents the largest district along the U.S.-Mexico border, stretching more than 800 miles, and he's the only Republican voice along the southern borderland. However, from his perspective, the future of immigration policy should be guided by the people on the ground.
I think more people should be having insight onto the border. We should be listening to local law enforcement that have been dealing with these issues a lot longer than a lot of the folks that are in federal law enforcement. We should be listening to business leaders who have been operating on both sides of the border. We should be listening to state politicians along our border as well. So I think the way we're going to solve the border crisis is by listening to a lot of voices, not just a handful of members of Congress.
Hurd's departure also spotlights the shifting politics of Texas. The longtime red state has pockets that are turning purple. He was reelected by a narrow margin in 2018, and the race for his seat has been deemed the toss-up race to watch in 2020.
We have proven that a Republican can win in that seat. We know how to win in 2020. We have a plan on how we were going to attack that, and these are battle plans that we will give to the next person so that they can be ready for that. Campaigns aren't rocket science. ID your voters, turn them out, right? And with a good candidate, we can keep this seat in the R column.